going on, everyone? In this video, I'm going to give you 11 tips and steps on how you should film yourself when it comes to YouTube. We're not going to beat around the bush, we're just going to jump right into it. Number 1, film in a high resolution. Now when I say this, I mean that you should film in at least 1080p. Now no matter what camera you film with, it's going to have the capability of filming at least 1080p. You can go lower than that, but I never recommend doing that when it comes to filming for YouTube. There's a lot of very popular YouTubers out there that only film in 4K, and there's even some people out there that film in 8K. These are just higher resolutions and they definitely have some of their benefits to them, but if you have something that can only film at 1080p, then you're not gonna have anything to worry about. You're gonna get a good quality for every YouTube video that you shoot. Now if you have the capability of shooting in 4K, I recommend trying it out. When you film in 4K, you have the ability to zoom in and frame your subject in different ways without losing any quality. This is something you can't really do when you're filming in 1080p, but that's not something that everyone needs to do for their videos. So, filming in at least 1080p is the first thing you need to do when it comes to filming yourself for YouTube. Moving on to number 2, you need to make sure that you have enough storage for the video that you're about to shoot. Now if you're filming in a very high resolution like 4K, then you're really going to need to make sure that you have plenty of storage because 4K footage is going to fill up your memory cards much faster than 1080p footage. So when it comes to this step, I always make sure that my memory cards are formatted before I go in filming. This way that I can ensure that the memory card I'm using is blank, and when it's blank, the likelihood of me filling up that memory card based on the video that I'm about to shoot is very minimal. And this holds true even if I'm filming in 4K. For the most part, the memory cards I use are 128 gigs, so for the most part, that should always be more than enough for any video that you're filming. But like I said, if you're filming in 4K, that's really gonna push the limits of your memory cards because the storage is gonna fill up very quickly. And with all these cameras starting to come out with 8K capabilities, that's only gonna fill up memory cards even faster if you choose to do that. So this is why it's always good to make sure that you have enough storage space, and if you think you're gonna use up an entire memory card, always have backups at the ready. You don't want to be in the middle of filming something and realize later on that your memory card had to stop filming halfway through because you didn't have enough memory on that memory card. Trust me, this is something that happens to everyone at some point, so if you can minimize the chances of that happening, then I suggest you do that. Number 3, you need to make sure that you always have charged batteries. Whenever I'm filming, I always make sure that I have at least 2 batteries ready just in case I need to put a new battery in the camera. Now since I'm filming inside right now, I don't really have to worry about having as many batteries ready because I can always just go to the charger, plug the battery in, and be ready in a few minutes. However, if I'm filming outside and I for some reason only have 1 battery, that's when things start to be a little worrisome. You never know how fast your battery is going to drain. A lot of the time you can have a good estimate of how long some of your batteries last, but depending on what you're filming and how long you actually have your camera on will depend on how long that battery lasts. So you don't want to be out on a shoot for hours and hours and hours and only have 1 battery because more than likely that 1 battery isn't going to be enough. So always making sure that you have charged batteries when you begin filming and a couple extra batteries just in case is going to take you a long way. Number 4 is finding the right location. Now if you're just beginning with YouTube, location isn't going to be a huge deal. Most of the time when you're just starting with YouTube, you want to just get videos out there. So at that point, content matters much more than the location. However, as you start to progress with your videos, you want to make sure that the location around you starts to develop as you develop as well. And something else about location, you don't always have to worry about being outside, you don't always have to worry about something being inside. But when it comes to location, you want to make sure that your camera placement is very intentional. And by that I mean you want to place your camera in a spot where the location that it shows is exactly what you want it to show. So when you look at this scene right here, I intentionally placed the camera right here so that you can see everything that I want you to see. If my camera location was over here, the scene just doesn't look nearly as good and that's going to be a little distracting for your audience. If I place my camera over here, then the location that you see just isn't going to be nearly as appealing to the viewer's eye. So I intentionally placed my camera here so that you can see everything that I want you to see. Because when it comes to YouTube, people aren't just going to be focused on you and what you're saying. They're going to be looking at everything around you, so you always want to keep location in mind. You don't want a location that's too dull because that's just going to be a little boring to look at, and you don't want a location that's too busy and has too many distractions because that's just going to take away from how good your video actually is. Piggybacking off of that and going on to number 5, you need to keep your background in mind. The background you have is always going to be a big deal in your videos. No matter what your niche is, no matter what your audience is, the background is going to always play a big role in every single one of your videos. So as you can see, my background right now, I have everything set up in a way that looks very good. And because my niche is photography and video, I have some elements of photography and video in my background, and I think that only adds to the videos that I'm making. Again, the background isn't too busy, there isn't a lot going on, but it's also not too distracting, and it's not taking the viewer's eye away from me too much. Now when it comes to the lights in the background, if I had the settings like this, then the scene in the background would be way more distracting because of how the lights are in the background. I changed the settings of those lights, so every time I'm talking, those lights light up, and that is something that is gonna really distract the audience from what I'm actually trying to say. Yes, those lights are really cool, but it's only gonna take away from what I'm trying to tell my audience. But if you like these lights and you want to get some, I'll leave a link in the description below. So always make sure that you have your background in mind and make sure that it's not something that is going to take away from the overall quality of your video. Moving on to number 6, and that is properly framing your shot. When you properly frame your shot, everything's going to just fall into place a lot easier. So this is something where the rule of thirds comes into play. The rule of thirds says that if you have a 3x3 grid in your frame, that's really going to help you align everything within your frame a lot better. So if you're doing videos like this where you're talking to the camera, then making sure that you're not too far to one side or to the other of the frame is going to play a big role. You also want to make sure that you're not too far up or too far down in the frame as well. If I had my framing like this, then things just wouldn't look right, and as a viewer you would probably click to the next video as fast as you can. The same holds true if my framing was like this, because who just wants to talk to a floating head? So having proper alignment and framing within your video is gonna be something that helps improve all of your videos now and in the future. Moving on to number 7, and that is having proper lighting. Lighting is probably gonna be one of the most important things when it comes to any video that you do for YouTube. Nobody wants to look at something that's too dark, and nobody wants to look at something that's too bright. You need to find that right balance where you have the proper lighting for every video that you do. As you can see right now, the lighting is pretty good. Yes, I have those lights in the background, but they don't do anything to add light to my face. So if I sat here and turned my main light off, as you can tell right away, the lighting is completely different. It's not nearly as good because of all the lights in the background, and I'm just not as well lit as I should be. So when I turn the light back on, give it a couple seconds, give the camera time to adjust, and I am properly lit again, and that is how things should be. You want to make sure that your subject is always as well lit as possible when you're filming for YouTube. All right, we are almost there. We're getting there. 11 steps and tips. That's a lot. So, bear with me. We're almost there. Number 8 is make sure you have proper focus and exposure for your videos. Focus should be self-explanatory. What you want to be in focus should always be in focus. You don't want to have videos like this where something in the background is in focus, but you, while you're talking to the camera, you're not in focus. That's just going to be something that nobody wants to look at. And trust me, I've done that for several videos, and I've gone into the editing process and I realized that I've had to start the video all over again because focus was not where it was needed to be. Now when it comes to exposure, that's basically how bright or dark your image is, and that has a lot to do with the lighting. So if you have proper lighting, the exposure you get from your camera is more than likely going to be very good if you're using your automatic settings. Now if you're somebody that does manual mode and sets all the settings yourself, then that's going to take a little bit longer to set the proper exposure. And when you have your right exposure set, you're not going to have to worry about anything when it comes to the camera. So having proper focus and having proper exposure are two things that are going to make your videos look visually appealing. And they're going to be visually appealing no matter what type of video you're shooting. Moving on to number 9, and that is having proper sound. You want to have good audio for every single video that you do. Personally speaking, if I'm watching a video and the sound just absolutely sucks, I'm not gonna watch the video no matter how good the content is. It could be a video that has potential to be the best video on YouTube, but if the audio sucks, I'm not gonna watch it. I don't care what it's about. And I think that's something a lot of people feel the same about. You always wanna make sure that you have proper sound when you're recording your videos. So for example, I have a microphone on top of my camera. The audio I get from that is always gonna be good, and it's something that I like. Now if I took the microphone out of the camera, the audio would sound like this. And as you can tell, the audio just isn't nearly as good as it was before when I had the microphone plugged into the camera. So when it comes to audio and sound, I recommend buying a microphone. I'll put a link to the microphone I use in the description, but I always recommend having a microphone instead of using the in-camera mics that come with any camera that you use. An external microphone is really gonna up the audio of every video that you shoot for YouTube. And having proper audio is just one thing that's really gonna help your videos take off on YouTube. Number 10 is do a test shot. You don't wanna record a video and then go back looking at the footage and see that something just wasn't right about what you were doing. So when you're doing a test shot, you wanna make sure that the lighting is good, the exposure is good, the focus is right, and the audio is set to where you want it to be. This is also the time to make sure that your background, the location, everything that you need for your video before you hit the record button is where you want it to be. And when it comes to a test shot, it doesn't need to be a long test shot. Just do a 10-second test shot where you're speaking and talking as you would in the video, and then stop recording, check the footage, make sure everything is set exactly how you want it to be. And if everything is right with this step, then everything is gonna be good looking forward and going forward to the actual recording of your video. Moving on to the last and final step, make sure that you press the record button. We're all gonna fall into the trap at some point where we think we're pressing the record button and we start recording our video, but when we go back to the footage isn't there because we never actually pressed the record button. And I know this last step sounds a little silly, but trust me, you need to make sure that when you press the record button, your camera is actually recording. You want to see the screen say record. If your camera doesn't tell you that it's recording, then it's not recording. So when you press that button, double check everything, look at the screen, make sure that your face is being recorded, because nothing's gonna be worse than recording for 30-something minutes and then realizing that you have to do that 30-something minutes over again because you never really pressed the record button the way you should have. And there you have it, people. 11 tips and steps on how you should record yourself for YouTube. More and more people are wanting to be on YouTube, so why not follow the right steps to help you make the best videos possible? There's no guarantee that you're gonna blow up with your first video, but if you keep following these steps consistently, things are gonna turn out in your favor. Now comes the time where I have a little favor to ask you people. If this is a video that you enjoyed and you thought was very helpful, be sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe because there's gonna be plenty of content coming out that you're not gonna wanna miss. There you have it. Hopefully now you understand how to film yourself for YouTube. And if you're wondering about any equipment that I've used in this video to help me film myself for this video, check the links in the description below. Everything I use is down there. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I'll be sure to catch you in the next one. Take it easy. Peace. DareToCapture is here, and DareToCapture is here to stay. I don't know. I'll put that. That's bloopers. All right.